Hop into your Bronco, hold on to your pancakes, and take a drive with us as we return to Haven. This is Troubled, your favorite rewatch podcast dedicated to the Sci-Fi Channel show Haven, based on the Stephen King novella, The Colorado Kid. I'm the first host in our father-son podcasting duo, Alex French.
And I'm Rich French, the French that watched Happy Gilmore in a theater while Alex slept in my lap.
It's cold in there. All right. So we are back with episode 12. This one is called Resurfacing. We're nearly there to the finale. I hope everyone had good holidays over this break in December. We took a week off. It had nothing to do with technical issues, we swear. But we're back. So like every episode, we like to start with a summary and kind of get you up to date on the episodes. Because just a little update to anyone who isn't aware, Haven will be getting pulled from Netflix January 15th. So for those of you that don't own the show like on DVD or Blu-ray or digitally, that could be troublesome, one could say. So I just wanted to give you that update. I think we've been talking about this. I think it's going to get added to Peacock later, but there's no confirmation. I haven't heard anything. That's just an instinct since they have Warehouse 13. And we know NBC Universal had a hand in distribution and handling of Haven.
I'm sure it'll end up somewhere. As soon as we find out where it's ending up, we'll let the trusted listeners know.
But until then, don't worry. We'll be summarizing every episode like we always do. So if they're unavailable, you can count on our completely unreliable summaries. No, I'm just kidding. Here we go. All right, this is episode 12, Resurfacing. So the episode begins with this kind of older gent on the beach, right? And he's looking around, finds a derelict ship.
Right. A ship has washed ashore that was damaged. He definitely recognizes the ship, and he goes in. He finds and the guy, we later find out his name, Hank Olson. And he goes in to investigate, and he finds a tooth, then a cross, and he knows who it belongs to. And then lastly, a skeleton. Yeah.
It screams. Audrey and Nathan come to investigate, right? And Audrey's making tons of pirate jokes all over the place.
Yeah. And Nathan gives her some background that, 5 people went down with the ship, including the boat owners, James Garrick and Andy Weaver. And many blame James because he used to be a drinker in the past. And both wives of the owners blame each other's husband for the sinking.
Right. So back at the house for Mrs. Garrick, right, she is the wife of the one who was like, what, he's an alcoholic or something? Or was like a lot of people blame
formerly
him.
An alcoholic.
Yeah, formerly.
Right, because Tracy is telling their daughter, Brooke, that she has to watch her younger brother, Michael, which she doesn't like. And all of a sudden, Tracy's keys go flying like under like a table or an ottoman or something. So what force made that happen? But she does find them.
But before we go to HPD, the not accused dead guy's wife, Vera, shows up and gets in an argument with Tracy, which is the guy who everyone thinks did it's, widow. She shows up, they get in a big argument, and she gets, she's blaming him, and they're yelling at each other, and she gets tossed across the room, right, into a door.
Yeah, tossed right into a door, hits her head on the door, projected by some invisible force.
Right. And then back at HPD, Audrey and Nathan are talking to Hank, right?
Right. And, they start asking him about some corrosion on the parts. And Hank, says, there's nothing to that. But if you look into this, you won't like what you find. So it just he's no help whatsoever.
Right. And then they're talking to, they kind of come talk to the family. There's a lot of frustration there. And Nathan wants to look more into the parts stuff, and he's upset because that guy was his little league coach, which him and Duke were on the team. So he's going to go talk to Duke about the parts because, we're selling ship parts that might not be above board. Who else are we going to talk to except Duke?
Right, because the conflict with the kids is the daughter blames her own dad, James, and then the son blames the other guy and thinks his dad isn't at fault. And that's what creates a lot of the tension between the two.
Right. So Audrey's going to hang out with the kids. Meanwhile, Duke and Nathan are going to go do their thing. We're going to kind of stick with Duke and Nathan for the majority, even though it's split between the two, just to kind of simplify so we're not jumping back and forth. We're just going to tell Duke and Nathan's, and then we'll jump back and tell Audrey's, and you'll see where they connect.
Right, because it could be kind of hard to follow with us discussing it, especially if you hadn't watched it.
All right, so then Nathan goes to see Duke. Nathan goes to see Duke, and he walks in on he drives up to him in the middle of a meeting that Duke is having with a very rascally looking guy.
a rascal sunset type of guy.
Exactly. His type of guy.
Yeah. So that rascally looking guy is a guy named Carl, and Duke is trying to get him to set up a meeting with Stoney, who apparently Duke has wronged in Stoney's mind, and Carl is very, very reluctant to do so. But eventually, and then when I'll give Duke credit, Duke plays it off pretty cool when Nathan shows up. He's like, "Hey, I told you to be here 30 minutes ago." And, like it was a plan for him to be part of it, which was pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
And then he basically gets Carl to relent and set up the meeting with Stoney.
Oh, he bribes him, right? He pulls out a bunch of hundreds. And,
no, it wasn't for free. This is Duke's world. Nothing's for free.
Right, but we'll come back to those hundreds, those Benjamins as he uses. So then, Nathan's kind of like, "Hey, we need to talk about this guy and the boat ship parts. What do you know?" And Duke's like, "Well, maybe I know something, but I need your help first because I'm going to die, basically. I'm going to get killed if we don't take care of my problem before your problem." So Nathan's pretty resistant, right? But he eventually relents and helps Duke.
Yeah, because Duke gives him the spiel. He says, "Hey, I delivered a box." Then Stoney, the client, said, "Oh, it's empty." So he believes Stoney set him up and then paid him with counterfeit cash.
The box, carrying over from the trial of Audrey Parker. Those boxes are quite important. So now they're kind of talking and, they're talking at the Grey Gull about what they're going to do and shit. And it kind of gets into their personal history where Nathan recants why he has such frustrations with Duke, like the thumbtacks, right?
Right. So it was back in 1983, aka the last period of troubles, at least, during the last period, when they were 8 years old, and Duke and his friends told Nathan that this girl, Carla Rose, liked him and to go talk to her. But while they were doing that, they were patting him on the back with tacks. So they were putting these pin tacks into his back. He goes to see the girl, tries to talk to her. She screams because blood's running all down his back. And they did set a record, I guess, with 16 tacks was the winner.
Yeah, and then he was scared to talk to girls for a while because of that.
Yeah, another 2 years, apparently.
Didn't stop him in high school or college. He was getting with girls all around town eventually.
Oh, naked meteor showers. What's not to love?
Okay, so then they kind of get over it, or not get over it, but they kind of, they're working through the all the stuff. And then eventually Duke kind of tells him the plan, like, "All right, you're going to be like the agent. You're going to be my guy. We need to tussle you up, though, and make you look more like more rapscallion."
Is that a new Wu-Tang name for Nathan?
Yeah, rapscallion undercover. And so the kind of plan is that Nathan's going to meet with Stoney as he like an associate or like a in between or something.
Intermediary of Duke.
Yeah,
kind of broker a deal between the two of them.
Right.
Even muffs up Nathan's hair to try to make him, like you said, look a little more rascally.
Yeah. So Stoney shows up, and Stoney's not what we expect. She's an attractive woman instead of like a kind of old fat guy like you'd expect. But she's got some big bodyguards with her that are ready to fuck up somebody.
Oh yeah, they're jacked up. They look like there's not a steroid they haven't tried.
And so what? Nathan tries to pass off money to her, right? Or he tries to cut a deal, or pretends to cut a deal with her.
Right, exactly. He said, there's nothing more that I'd like to because she offers him, let's kill Duke and then split the money, and which he agrees to. And then when she gets a hold of the money, she realizes that it's counterfeit and tries to go after him.
And in comes Duke running in, pretending to be a cop at first, just to get the surprise on the bodyguards. They put their hands up. Duke performs a citizen's arrest before Nathan kind of takes back his gun and badge.
He's a special agent for Haven PD. Yeah, which Nathan kindly tells him doesn't exist.
Exactly. And so with that all completed, now Nathan can get the information from Duke that he needs. But we'll get to that critical info in a minute. Back to Audrey to kind of continue the investigation. She goes to talk to Tracy at the Grey Gull before all of these events. Tracy talks about how disrespected they are in the town, how everyone's kind of looking at them sideways and nobody trusts them after, after the ship went down and everyone thinking it was her husband. She wants to kind of get out of there and move the kids away and stuff. But Audrey's kind of like, this might be a trouble and something might be going on here.
Yeah, Tracy's not having any of that. She just briskly walks away. She doesn't want to even think about the troubles as being part of this.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the daughter's at home with her boyfriend, little brother being ignored and all, even though he knows there's not supposed to be a boy there. And what happens there?
Her boyfriend, Jake, and normally you can always trust a guy named Jake, but this Jake gets a little too handsy. And all of a sudden, Jake is shot across the kitchen and he hits his head. So once again, this invisible force is in play. And who is it? Is it Michael, the son, or is it Brooke, the daughter?
Well, I think we're led on to believe it's the daughter at the moment. Like, we think the daughter's behind it because she was angry when the keys flew, the woman flew, and now the boyfriend. She goes running off into the forest. Audrey arrives, comes and talks her down, and we kind of figure out the daughter's like, yeah, I wish I had the power because I would do something with it, but it's not me. And then we kind of see a scene where we, kind of suspect the son as things fly around his dad's room and shit. So we're kind of like, oh, I think the son is like kind of Carrie now.
Yeah, Brooke states she's not troubled, that she's not like one of those freaks, those troubled people.
The mom, since she's selling the house, she's got a couple coming in to take a look at the house. And they're kind of brusque. They're kind of going through the house. They're a little rude, I would say. And then especially when they want to go into the dad's study and the son's like, no, you can't go in there. And the mom's like, well, hey, he's having a hard time since the dad died. And they're like, all right, you know what? We don't want to buy the house. Peace out. They fucking leave with major attitude problems.
So we're back at the Garrick house and Audrey is in James' office and she's trying to help Michael, understand this, affliction he has. And then, she asks Michael to go get Tracy because something, she gets an idea. And then she figures out that James is in the room. And then she kind of reaches around, tries to find him. And she eventually does find him and is able to grab him and stabilize him.
Right. Because the telekinetic, it's not somebody with telekinesis, as we figure out. It's not any of the kids. It's no one is throwing people around the room. It's another person is in the room, but just we were unable to see them. Right.
Right. And, at this point, Audrey is talking with James in the office, and James flat out calls her Lucy. And then he explains his trouble about, how he's moving so fast that he can't be seen.
Right. So she's kind of now she kind of figures out the truth about him. And so she goes to tell the mom and the kids like, hey, I gotta show you something. And Nathan's calling, being like, hey, I figured out what was going on with the parts. Right.
Right. Duke had told him that it turns out there's this metalworks that it is, cuts costs on parts by not building them properly. And that Hank Olson was working with this couple, the Fortunas, Sal and Nancy, selling these corrosive and defective parts.
Right. So then twist moment, a couple that was checking out the house, they have now come back in the house and they are holding everybody at gunpoint because they are the Fortunas.
Exactly. So that was pretty interesting.
So now, they want to kill, and they're like, yeah, you know what? We're going to kill him, burn the house down and everything to get rid of all the evidence, or else we're busted. The kid starts having like a speed seizure, because we're figuring out he does have the same trouble as his dad. And then in the distraction of them trying to, deal with the son, the dad, James, speeds in and knocks the fucking couple into the walls, knocks them out.
Yeah, and causes quite a few broken bones and injuries for them as he fires them across the wall into like a bookshelf that they shatter.
Right, and so they kind of stabilize him one more time, and he has this final kind of goodbyes to his family. Tells them, if you ever hear this bell ringing in the office, that's me knocking it around. But this is probably the last time I'll be able to hold still.
Right. Yeah. It took everything he had to come back that last time to stop the Fortunas. He does give Audrey some key information about how Lucy helped him so much. But, while he was having one of his fits, he shattered glass and it cut her on the bottom of her foot, on the sole of her foot.
Right. And then he kind of fades away. Sad moment. Everybody's sad. Meanwhile, though, Nathan and Duke are having back at the Grey Gull, they're kind of having a nice drink with each other. They're a little closer than they were before. One step. The divide isn't closed, but it's a little closer. Audrey decides not to interrupt, and so she kind of takes a walk out on the beach, and she sits down and takes her shoe off, her sock off to take a look. If this guy thought she was Lucy, or she's being mistaken for Lucy so much, why not take a look? And lo and behold, she has a scar on the bottom of her foot, just like Lucy would have 30 years ago, 23 years ago, whatever.
And what makes it really poignant is she's sitting at the site of the Colorado kid murder on the beach when she looks at her foot. So kind of brings everything full circle.
Tied in. All right. So that is episode 12, Resurfacing. Now you know who was resurfacing, not just a boat, but a person. What did you ratings? Let's talk ratings. What did you give it?
Okay. There are some flaws with this episode, but I still liked it a lot because of the Nathan and Duke caper. I enjoy a good caper. I also really liked that we got the big reveal at the end that Audrey is Lucy. I mean, that's a game changer. And on the Frenchometer, I gave it a 7.5, but we want to eschew decimal points, so I think I'll bump it up to an 8.
I mean, you can have decimal points if you want.
hey, since we're both Frenches and it's the Frenchometer, I feel like we had to have some consensus on this, to make it an official Frenchometer. So I will bump it up to the 8 because, like I said, I love the caper. There's some good banter, even if I didn't necessarily really like the trouble as much. Though we'll have some more information about the trouble that's actually pretty interesting. I think you'll find interesting too.
So I would give it an 8 as well. I guess more because the caper to me doesn't tie in very well to the plot. By the time Nathan delivers the information, it's kind of like, all right, well, they're here. So this didn't really help us at all.
Yeah, but it gave us an excuse to get some of the history of the beef between Nathan and Duke, really more Nathan with Duke. And it was just a heck of a lot of fun.
It was fun. It was fun. It was just a little too loose compared to I think kind of the importance of what's happening. But also, I'd also think a problem with it is like it's a little messy. We have like 4 conversations with the mom, widow, whatever, Tracy. There's like so many events of like her and Audrey kind of meeting to like talk, and it feels like it could have been condensed into maybe 1 or 2 bigger conversations rather than like 4 spread out.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I would like to see that condensed because jumps back and forth, and
well, otherwise I like the trouble a lot. I thought it was really cool losing that he's, because we didn't really talk about it in the summary, but he's all about multitasking and doing so many things, right? He's this like father, husband, little league coach, has like a job doing this, doing that he's barely sleeps, and finding out that he can maybe move faster than you would expect and do more things than a normal person would, and it consuming him and taking, being out of control with it, I think was a cool, a kind of logical conclusion, I think, of super speed taken too far, right? Is moving too fast to be part of like our physical world.
Right. And by doing all that severe multitasking, I believe that's what triggers him and, triggers his trouble. And it makes everyone think he's dead because it turns out that, he was shouting for them not to take the boat out when it on its last journey, when it sank, but he had twisted into his troubled existence on a different plane in the same place. So they never heard his warning, so it wasn't his fault they drowned. He couldn't help that.
This is one of my favorite episodes so far, actually. Maybe an 8 makes it seem low. Maybe it's a 9 for me. It's somewhere in there. I really like the ending. Was the emotional ending I enjoyed quite a bit with the dad leaving. It worked for me. And I would say this is probably one of the best jobs they do of tricking you about the trouble. And, they're always kind of trying to fool you. Who's got it? What is it? They're always trying to kind of pull one over on us. And I think this was the best job maybe of the season so far, me being like, who's telekinetic here? And then it being like, oh, it's not even telekinesis.
Yeah, no, I agree. They did do a good job of that. I'm not bumping it up to a 9, but
who else? What other episode would you think has like a good did as good of a job at tricking you into what the trouble was? Maybe Fur was one that I couldn't really figure out for a while, because obviously the shapeshifter, you figure out that trouble pretty early but then it's just a mystery of who it is. But you know what the deal is. This one kind of you don't know what the deal is for a long time.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. They did, because first, we did the usual red herring bait and switch with, oh, it's Brooke, oh, it's Michael. First maybe it's Tracy, who knows? And it turns out it's nothing because they were playing the telekinesis versus poltergeist, and we were pretty sure it wasn't going to be a poltergeist because the Haven is based on the Troubles, and poltergeist really wouldn't necessarily be a trouble. I mean, that's a spiritual entity.
And your trouble could be that you're like, I don't know, spirit stays.
I guess your trouble could be that you attract poltergeists. So maybe that's
there's ways to do, I think, a poltergeist.
No, and they did a good job of keeping that hidden. I'll agree with you there.
Yeah, I just think the heist. I'm sorry, not the heist. The like little con caper thing was just a little too disconnected for me. It really doesn't serve any purpose except to give Nathan something to do while Audrey's doing all the heavy lifting. It was really fun, and obviously we both listened to the commentary done by Charles Ardai, who created Hard Case Crime, the publisher of the Colorado Kid and Joyland, the Stephen King books. And what's the next one? Later, right? Correct.
That's what it says. And by the way, did you know that we had Patreon episodes both on the Colorado Kid and Joyland, and they're fantastic.
Well, wait a minute. The Colorado Kid one, we just review the book, but the Joyland one, we actually both pitch a show, right? Based off of how we would do a show, just the way they did with Colorado Kid to Haven.
Exactly. And I think both ideas that we came up with were phenomenal. And I won't say which one is better or not. You have to listen
because we both
to the
know.
And decide.
I think everyone can figure out, who's better.
Yeah. The acorn doesn't fall far from the tree, but there is some distance. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, if the tree is bad ideas, then I hope it fell a little. No, I'm just kidding. But Charles Ardai does the commentary, and he kind of talks about how that story was a little different too. Like there was supposed to be like a motel involved, and there's going to be, the room was getting wrecked, and Duke and Nathan were going to kind of think it had something to do with Stoney when it was really the kind of poltergeisty effect happening. But they were going to think thugs ruined the room. So there was this whole kind of seedy motel thing that's very Hard Case Crime that was originally involved that kind of got cut out, which two double-edged, sword or whatever. I would have liked to have seen it, but I don't know. Does it necessarily fit Haven? Like I can see cutting it out, but it would have been fun to see like a seedy motel with that kind of, the neon, everything drenched in neon lights from the motel. Yeah, vacancy, open 24-hour signs and stuff.
Well, yeah, like a noir episode. Yeah, and that would be okay because some shows do that, right? You really have this general story arc and everything, but every now and then you throw in kind of like a special episode, like you see like sometimes like a musical type episode, things like that. Maybe a noir episode would be great, but Haven doesn't really do that, at least in season 1, so it wouldn't seem consistent, like you said. So.
And it's cheaper to shoot all the scenes that they did at the Grey Gull rather than because the family would also be staying at the motel. That was kind of how the poltergeist effect would affect the motels. The family, after they moved out of the house because they're planning on leaving. Was like, I think, part of the original idea or the original script that didn't get through. But that would require a whole new set, that they got to dress and do all these things rather than just staying in the house and staying at the Grey Gull, which is a lot cheaper and quicker, I'd imagine. Yeah.
And as we've learned in, past episodes, it's at the point where they have to do bottle episodes, right? So adding.
Well, every show does stuff like that, though.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it's anything negative. It's just, it comes with it's part of the business and the operations.
So what do you think of Charles Ardai's commentary?
I liked it because I enjoy a lot of the commentaries, when they have the big group of them, but they end up, talking and they're fun, but we don't learn as much because they end up talking and joking and, following one thread. And by that time, 2 or 3 other things have happened that it'd be nice to have information. But Charles Ardai was, very concise and gave you great information. like one of the cool, so one of the things about it, I didn't really particularly like the trouble myself. I know you did. I didn't particularly like it. I didn't think the effects were that great. But then Charles Ardai explains where his inspiration for this was, because growing up, his favorite character was the Flash, and the Flash was Jay Garrick.
What a lot of people may not realize is there's, the most popular version of the Flash is Barry Allen. He's the kind of guy in the TV show and in the Justice League movie and stuff. But before him, in the 40s, when the Flash was, I think it was 1940, when the Flash was originally created, he was a guy named Jay Garrick. He was like a college student who, fell asleep in a lab or something and inhaled hard vapors or some shit, vaping too hard in his lab. And so he gained super speed, became the Flash, but his outfit's pretty different looking. It's like blue pants, red shirt with like a giant yellow lightning bolts across it. And then he's got this kind of Hermes-esque discus hat thing with like wing tips on it. So a lot of people probably aren't familiar with that because all those kind of different versions, like they had different versions of Flash, Green Lantern, Hawkman, Atom. A lot of those original versions of the superheroes, when it came time for the 50s, Wisconsin's own McCarthy, Senator McCarthy, kind of led the brigade with a lot of others on, what was un-American, and comic books were deviant, turning children homosexual or into murderers, and BDSM maniacs is what they thought. So they kind of, superheroes went away for a bit. And then the 50s, DC kind of came with the idea like, hey, what if we kind of say our superheroes are actually just like Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers rather than superheroes? So then Flash became Barry Allen, and his books became more science-based rather than, I know the original one I said it was like a lab accident, but it was kind of, he was dealing with monsters and shit. This one then, Flash always had like science involved, like, he has now Gorilla Grodd, so he can explain, talk about primates and like Africa and stuff. He has Captain Cold, so he can talk about temperature. Mirror Master, so he can explain how mirrors and reflections and light work. Weather Wizard, so he can explain weather. So that's kind of how they survived the kind of attack on superheroes and just lack of popularity post World War II.
Well, think about the ramifications, because part of the Red Scare was they blacklisted writers in Hollywood, and we're charging everyone as communists. So if you didn't clean up your comic book, you could have ended up on a blacklist and out of work.
And a lot of things I think maybe people don't know is that like a lot of superhero comics back in the day was something like 80% Jewish, like 80% of like creators were Jewish. It was a lot of poor Jewish New York guys that couldn't find jobs and were getting discriminated against that got into comic books. So like a lot of your favorites like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. I don't think Steve Ditko is Jewish. Joe Shuster, all those guys, Joe Simon. So anyway, yeah. So the Jewish creators were also, getting kind of targeted a lot in that McCarthyism era. Not that this really has too much to do with what we're talking about, but it was interesting to see that Charles Ardai knew his shit with old golden age, silver age superhero stuff.
Especially if you're a big fan of comics. Especially if you're a big fan of comics like Alex is. And, so not so much, but every now and then.
Yeah, I was very impressed with his knowledge, because Jay Garrick has shown up in the Flash TV show, but I don't think a lot of people would know what he, especially at the time of the recording. This would have been like 2010 when they would have recorded this commentary, and for sure the Flash TV show wasn't out, so Jay Garrick wasn't really getting talked about back then. So that was really cool. I really like the commentary overall because, like you were saying, he's very focused and controlled. He's giving more, like we've talked about, I think in the last episode, the trial of Audrey Parker was the difficulty of the commentary, of being all over the place, some borderline to on the line inappropriate comments.
Some serious bum looking, yes, and exactly. bum evaluating, yes,
exactly. Or how good a girl in a tank top looks with a gun. So I like that.
The only ones you invite to your poker games, right?
Yeah. So I like that he was focused and actually talking, because I like the fun, but I like the analysis as well, and like learning. Like you don't. Every day some asshole like us can make a podcast and talk about the show, but it's, you don't get those opportunities to listen to the creators and like the writers and the actors talk about the show in that kind of controlled environment. Like in an interview, it's kind of hard because there's all this press stuff where it's like, oh, let's talk about this. Also, Emily, what's your favorite like color and, all that stuff, rather than what I really liked in her commentary, her parts was, how focused she stayed on the episode itself. And Charles Ardai does the same thing. He stays very focused.
I mean, because he comes out and he's like, "Yep, Audrey's Lucy. That's a fact." And then he's
he doesn't say it like that. He just says those other theories are wrong.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But yeah, he basically definitively says Audrey is Lucy. And he also said he was the one who pitched the idea to the producers of the Dead Zone about making Colorado Kid a television series.
Right, which we talked about last episode in regards to who came up in that. I think it's kind of a mishmash of, him sending out a query letter in it, getting accepted by a guy, by that producer.
Because Adam Frotto had said that he had taken the hard crime book and pitched it to Ernst and Dunn. So, but, all that different interplay, like I said, you cleared it up pretty good in that last episode.
All right, so I like Charles Ardai's style. He only pops up one more time as a writer for season 3 episode called Burned. So we'll see him again there. So unfortunately, I feel like the two writers I like the most are Ardai and Jose Molina, and they're not really showing up in the future. Ardai has one more episode, but I do like. This director Mike Rohl also did a lot of Eureka episodes as well as Dead Zone. So it's a guy they trust from Dead Zone, but a guy that, he does our favorite show, unless he does all my least favorite episodes. But
yeah, I didn't look at that. Yeah. I don't know. There weren't many episodes of Eureka I didn't like that I recall off the top of my head, but
I'm sure we could find some, but
if we rewatch that one, I'm sure we would.
Something Ardai points out in the commentary about the counterfeit money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Ardai brings up a very good point because, Nathan, as he's feeling, earlier in the episode when Duke shows him the money and says it's counterfeit, Nathan, uses his thumb to, kind of flick through the money. And he's like, yeah, that's good quality. And Ardai points out, how the fuck can he feel it? He's troubled. He can't feel. How does he know it feels like good quality?
Yeah.
I missed it. I missed it.
I didn't notice that, but as much as I was like, when Nathan, grabs the money, feels and is like, oh yeah, this is great counterfeit money. I was like, you instantly found out it was counterfeit. How good can it be if the second you looked at it, touched it, you were like, oh, yep, fake.
Yeah, I didn't see it at all. But while we're talking about the caper, what did you think about the execution of the Stony Trap, especially in regards to the henchmen?
I mean, what, that they didn't do anything, that they got caught flat-footed, or what?
Yeah, I mean, each of them's on one side of Nathan, and then Duke just comes out with a gun, and both of them are armed, but they just sit there and, oh no, you got us. Yeah.
All right. Well, one, he's got the gun sideways. You're in trouble. You just can't get out of that. You're fucked if he's got the gun, angled sideways, gangster style.
So gang style, execution style. Okay,
they fucking knew that they were done once they saw the gun. No, but really he came from behind. And at first when you're hearing Haven PD special agent, you're with a guy running up screaming that, and you kind of look over and see a guy with a gun pointed at your back. What are they going to do? The time it's going to take for them to turn around, he'd have them both on the floor before they could do anything.
I don't know. I find it a stretch. I mean,
that's like a strategic, you can't get out of that. He's got how are you going to draw and fire on him unless you're like, hey buddy,
it's one of us, 50-50 odds.
50, one of us is going to die really hard, and the other one's probably going to get shot, but maybe live. Fuck that. You just take jail time rather than death. I'm not gonna take a chance on spinning around and that I'm the one Duke chose to shoot. I'm not taking that chance that I'm gonna be the one to fucking die and the other guy takes out Duke and gets away. Fuck that. It's not worth it to me for them to escape if I die. I'm not fighting for any cause. I'm just fighting for money. Unless unless he was deadly loyal to Stone, unless he's one of Bane's henchmen in The Dark Knight Rises, willing to be in the plane when he crashes it at the beginning.
Well, Stoney is quite an attractive lady, but then again, who knows?
Yeah, not to die for.
No. I just thought it was kind of cheesy that those guys, he wouldn't have sprung the jump on them that easily, and that they would have reacted. And then,
what would have been better? What if he dropped a net on them from above? I'm just kidding.
Okay. All right. I see where you're going with this. So you're taking it back to 60s Batman shit.
The Scooby-Doo.
Okay. Would have got away with it. Wasn't for those damn kids.
Yeah, a giant magnet under the pier.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
No, but then Nathan takes cuffs Stoney and takes her away, and then leaves Duke with the henchmen. I mean,
what's he supposed to do?
Load all three of them into the vehicle.
Well, one, he has only one pair of handcuffs. You see these detectives. He's in jeans. He's got one pair.
I guess he wasn't a Boy Scout because he wasn't prepared.
Duke's the one with like the rope tying skills. So Duke would be the one to tie the rope around their hands and do like some expert knot that they can't get out of. But
then apparently, Nathan does, loads her into the Bronco, but he's back at the goal. So what happened?
They took her to the police station and came back.
Boy, it sure didn't.
You don't need to show that. Yeah, it was because they go through the whole like attack on the Fortuna's, attack. And then afterwards the ambulance gets there, loads them up. And then Nathan comes and talks to Audrey about it. And then he goes back to the goal. Right. So it's like clearly much later in the day when Audrey comes up, when she comes up to talk to Nathan and Duke and they're having a drink and she leaves.
Right, yeah. She sees them having fun playing poker with the counterfeit money that Duke knows Nathan's going to have to take to HPD, but they're going to have their fun with it till then. So yeah, I see what you're saying with it.
Like we don't need to see like Nathan take her to the police station. He did take a piss, maybe eat a snack, chat with someone about the game. We don't need any of that stuff. Just
Yeah, I'm not saying we need that. I think
get his shoes shined.
Yeah, awesome, great. We do want to watch him shave to see how he does it.
Yeah, he needs work on his sideburns. We should probably see how that goes. But he is a Pet Shop Boy fan, just like you.
Yeah, I love the Pet Shop Boys. They're excellent. And
so I was wrong in my Patreon episode where I guessed our second Patreon episode where we talked about the licensed music used in Haven. I had a guess as to what Nathan listens to. I won't say what my guess was, but I was incorrect, like usual.
Yeah, but Nathan can like other types of music. I mean, look at all of my tastes. At the time the Pet Shop Boys came out, I was listening to like Queensryche and Dokken and like hair metal and listening to...
I pretty clearly said he doesn't listen to stuff like this.
Yeah.
I was pretty definitive in being like, no, he listens to X only. So I was definitely wrong.
Hey, become a Patreon member and you can find out what he said and it will be illuminating.
Yeah, what about the scar, Audrey and the scar? Like, what do you think about that? Like, did she not realize she had that scar the second he told her about it?
I think she did. I think because she kind of had a look on her face when he says it, and so I think she realized that I think that's when she knew. And that's why she went back to the site, the Colorado Kids site, to look at it and bring everything back into full circle with her.
I feel like the moment at the end where she's like, "Oh shit," has an "oh shit" face at the end, kind of implies like maybe she like knew about it but like forgot about it or something. I don't know.
Maybe she didn't want to accept it. She did because
but she would know she has a scar on the bottom of her foot.
Yeah, but sometimes you got to ease yourself into these a concept like who the fuck am I? Who am I really? Who I am? I mean, granted, man has posed this question for centuries.
I think a smoother way of doing it would be just to introduce the scar sooner. So for the audience, when he's telling that story, because you're like, oh, okay, well, that's nice, about when he's like, oh, and she cut her foot super deep, and you're like, okay. And then when she looks at the scar, you're like, oh, shit. But it's mistimed to when she would know it versus if we'd seen it, like, let's say in one of the many times Dave is trying to dress her up.
Damn it. I was going to say that. Damn it. You took it from me. I was going to say Dave's buying her shoes and he's looking at the bottom of her foot.
Audrey looks like you got a scar there. Or like she gets her, whatever. She steps in like, when they were investigating the boat at the beginning, she steps in something and pulls her like shoe and sock off. And Nathan's like, oh, it's a nasty scar. And she's like, oh, whatever. And then at the end, when he's telling the story of like, yeah, she cut her foot, you're like, oh, fuck, we just saw the scar earlier. Like, I think that would have been maybe a better approach to it than he tells a story, then we see it. Cause wouldn't she would know. Right.
I think I think it'd be better storytelling that if we were previously exposed to the scarred foot, I mean, and there's plenty of ways you could have done it. Like you said, foot in the mud, Dave buying her shoes.
Hey, let's avoid the Dave buying her shoes.
I mean, it could have been in the shapeshifter episode, right? When they find her down there, could have had her feet visible.
Speaking of shoes, in an earlier scene, we see the daughter on the couch with her fucking shoes on, pulling a Rick James, just like, come on. Like, this daughter's so disrespectful with her shoes on the couch.
Yeah, I wouldn't be, Charlie Murphy would not approve. Let me tell you, the late Charlie Murphy, God rest his soul. I didn't like the child acting. I thought her little freak out about the trouble being freaks. I mean, how many troubled people does she know? I mean, is it like
quite a few people crop up in this town that have troubles.
Yeah, what do they have?
One a week.
Do they have a troubled academy at the high school? Like, are they broken out? Professor Xavier takes some of them on.
The Chiefs Academy for Troubled Youth.
Yeah, so that's who we want running it.
I didn't think
headmaster.
I didn't think the daughter was too bad. I thought the son was horrible. I thought the son was really bad. What was the kid's name? Was he just like Junior? Michael was pretty bad.
No, what do you think about the event that led to Nathan's schism with Duke? Do you think that's a severe enough reason for Nathan to hate Duke as much as he appears to at the beginning of the season?
If it's the main thing that he's mad about, then that's pretty ridiculous. But I don't think it's the main thing. I think it's one of the tipping points. Right. I think Duke, there must be either one much bigger event, or it was many events of this size. And this is just one of them.
And Charles Ardai actually says there's more to it in the commentary. Yeah. So he kind of answered the question for me, but I still wanted to pose it.
Because they have 7 seasons of lore set up.
Oh, yeah.
They must know. They know exactly how everything's going to end. So they got to know.
They know the last scene of the last episode. What do you think about Sal and Nancy Fortuna? There were some hardcore fucking killers, and in his members only jacket, he didn't really have the look.
I mean, their whole operation is going to go down. What else are they supposed to do?
Yeah, fires worked before. Jesus, how many fucking people have you burnt in fires and evidence destroyed?
I mean, that gives you your answer. They're hardcore criminals. They're fucking slaughterers.
I'll give them credit because they don't have the look. So that's how
you get away with it.
That's how you get away with it. Right. So
how long can you really get away with it when you look like Buffalo Bill? Obviously someone's eventually going to be like, yeah, you have a skin suit in the basement. You have the look. Yeah. Right. But they don't have the look of murders. It's a perfect disguise. All right. I think that's it for the main episode, for everything we want to talk about in the episode. Like I said, I really liked it a lot. We got one more. We got our finale spiral coming up next week. But before that, we like to do an extra segment every episode, as I'm sure you're well aware. Sometimes they go a little long. This one, we're going to do our own kind of caper heist buddy cop thing. So how Duke and Nathan, teamed up to kind of do some illicit stuff this episode. Someone pretending to be a special agent. We got counterfeit money. Nathan going undercover.
Named as Sheldon. Yes.
Poker game.
Menacing Sheldon.
So we decided to come up with our own. I'll go first, I think, because yours is the more detailed one. Mine's a lot looser. So we'll go with mine first. Those at home, send us your pitches, send us your capers. How would you like to see Duke and Nathan? What would you like to see them doing? That'd be kind of funny. Maybe it's a heist, maybe it's a caper, con, buddy cop, anything like that can lead to hilarious and dramatic hijinks. We want to hear from you and tell us which one of ours maybe you like the most.
It's going to be mine.
Yeah, who's going to win. That's not you.
Proceed, Penguin.
Many Adam Sandler references this episode. Well, I guess 2. Let's see if we can squeeze in a third somewhere. So mine, I kind of went for a buddy cop thing. Duke is just, all around town. People are kind of dying, right? Nathan's investigating. I don't know where Audrey is. She's at a weekend retreat at a spa or something. She's taking the weekend off. Well, it's going to be longer than a weekend. She's taking the week off. Let's stick with a week. She's taking the week off, and Nathan's kind of investigating these deaths, and it's people who are being poisoned. He eventually figures out it's the cologne they're using. Their Valentino V cologne is poisoning them. And, he's like, how can I track this? Figures out that it came from an illegal shipment from Duke, one of his boxes that he doesn't look in. And so he comes to Duke and he's like, man, you had some poison cologne. What did you do? And Duke's like, hey, this isn't me, but I want to know too, because somebody's, fucking up my life, my work too, by doing this. So let's team up. They track it. They track down this cologne that's been created in an art school, an art academy, maybe like the Chiefs Academy for Troubled Youth.
Yeah.
So they go to this school, and they the only way through is they got to enroll as students. So they join the art school. So they enroll at this like art school, and typically how these things would go. Duke is this kind of stylish, cool guy. He's charming. All the girls want to get with him normally, but here at an art school, everything's ass backwards as you would expect. Where Nathan is the cool guy, where they're like, oh man, we love your nondescript clothes, just like gray shirt, regular jeans. Like, this is cool. This is what cool kids wear. And so Nathan's getting along with all the cool art kids, especially when his decoupage comes into play, and he shows them all his artistic talents. He's playing Pet Shop Boys, and they're like, oh man, this is cool. This is so retro. Duke's too busy listening to world music and Fridalba to,
with his pants rolled up and like the collar pulled up,
He's trying to pitch his Fridalba, cassettes, and everyone's like, man, this fucking guy.
He pulls up in a Trans Am blasting Billy Squires to Stroke, wearing an Ariel Speedwagon t-shirt. There's your next Sadler reference. Yeah.
So that's Duke, everyone's kind of like, this guy's a dork, And so Duke, that's kind of the fun of it, right? Is Nathan has to deal with finally being the most popular kid in school, as the popular kids accept him. And Duke has to learn with being the loser. And he joins the sailing team, which is kind of the losers club of the school. And so they're trying to win some sailing competition or something. As we saw in Consumed, right? There's like sailing clubs and stuff.
Yeah, Haven High School has a sailing club.
Exactly. And they're competing against them and everything, right? Very Revenge of the Nerds, but with sailboats.
Sail jocks versus art nerds sailing.
Yeah, art nerd sailors. That's what they went to art school for, is like artistic sailing. But by the end, we'll kind of figure out the popular kids are the ones, whatever. The leader kids got a trouble that, or maybe it's the headmaster. I haven't figured it out exactly. But one of them, their sweat is corrosive, and the only way they feel better is when their sweat ends up on other people's skin. So that's why he's been sneaking it into cologne and shipping it around town to manage his pain. But of course, they got to take him down, and they end up in some crazy sailboat chase at the end, in a storm. And it's going to come down to Nathan turning away from his popularity and Duke's reliance on the nerds. Finally, him and the nerds saved Nathan in the end, as Nathan, defeats the leader.
I like it. I think it'd be a fun episode. I'd like to see it. I love the juxtaposition of nondescript Nathan being popular with the art nerds because he's more minimalist fashion style and straightforwardness, and Duke is a little pretentious.
Duke comes in with a like black and white striped shirt, he's
beret.
Got a beret on. He's got his high waters. He's like, hey, do you guys know I was in a band? And they're like, oh my god, like everyone's in a band, bro.
Yeah, she happens to be named after a French whore.
Well, at that point, it's Born as Ghosts, all right? Not like,
right,
this is so overplayed. And then they see Nathan, and they kind of get a peek at him painting in his room, his dorm room by himself.
Applying the clear varnish over it. And he's,
Exactly. Listening to Pet Shop Boys, and they're like, wow, this guy's cool.
Retro 80s cool.
And then, he's telling them like, yeah, one time I went and watched the meteor shower naked, and they're like, wow, this guy's just like a badass. Like, actually, he went to college already. They're like, this guy gets it.
Yeah, because he's 30. And they're all like 19 to 22.
So let's hear yours. You went more, you didn't go like buddy. Well, you're buddy cop elements, but not as buddy cop. Like I think it's mine.
Yeah. Mine's heavy on background, and, not claiming to be anywhere, in the realm of Stephen King, but I wanted to get really good background on it. So
you're not in the realm above the realm of Stephen King, right?
Yeah. I can't even write packaging ingredients, so that's not going to happen. Okay, so my pitch is my caper is named it Casse de Sirop, and I don't speak French well, so that's basically, but you can get the theme there with that. So the premise is that Stoney was just a lieutenant in a bigger crime organization, and the hit on Duke has not been eliminated. The bounty has actually increased tenfold due to Duke taking out the boss's lieutenant. Now, the boss is Teddy, the tickle stick, or just stick Bachman, who oversees all the crime families in Maine, and he has eyes on expansion into New Hampshire, Vermont, and New Brunswick.
Is this a Richard Bachman reference, or is this something from history?
So obviously I took the last name Bachman from the Richard Bachman books. I took the first name Teddy for the character Teddy that Stephen King played in The Stand. And the tickle stick is from the episode with the siren, the succubi.
Nathan knew what a tickle stick was.
Tickle stick was, right. And if you listen to the previous episode, we talked a lot about what the tickle stick was, and that not for this episode per se, but throughout the episodes. Okay, so Duke is once again able to set up a private meeting with the boss, but this time Nathan is on the hook with the boss as well, so he has to attend the meeting because he was part of the sting. The stick is livid with Duke because Stoney was a big earner. As a matter of principle, he says Duke has to die because of the optics. Well, Duke says he took this meeting, so there must be some agreement we can come to that is beneficial to all of us. The stick has had brief encounters with Chief Warnos in the past as he was ascending in the crime family, but he would like to avoid killing a cop if at all possible. It's usually a last resort in the Augusta crime family. The stick tells Nathan his dad has been a pain in his ass for a long time, but he's a good cop and knows when to leave things alone and move on. He tells Duke that it is his lucky day because if he is going to give him one chance to make up his lost earnings and preserve his life. The stick wants in on the criminal activities in Vermont, New Hampshire, and New Brunswick, and he's willing to take on the organizations already in place. But he needs an injection of cash to fund it. So the stick tells him he knows a French-Canadian freelance criminal, Jean-Luc Poisson-Dumont, who has, my French is awful, I know, who has set up a massive scam, swindling maple syrup right out from under the noses of the Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup Producers, or FPAC as they're called.
What flavor is he taking? Just original?
Do you need other flavors? Maybe butter, but besides that. And they're taking it from FPAC's strategic reserves in Saint Louis de Blanford, Quebec. So basically what they do, and they siphon the syrup right out of the barrels and fill them back up with water to replace it. Then they truck the syrup to Vermont, New Brunswick to be broken up into smaller batches and resold. He tells them that they have taken the contents of over 5,000 barrels, which is worth almost a cool 10 million. Not quite 10. So
9.8.
Something like that, exactly. Yeah, it might be off by
after tax. Just kidding.
It might be off by a Lila fracometer. I don't know.
Yeah.
The stick tells them that this is where they will come in. Poison's crew is getting sloppy. They've stopped refilling the barrels, and that will surely lead to the scam being discovered before the maximum product and revenue can be siphoned out of it. See what I did there? Siphoned out like they siphoned the syrup. Oh my God. Cheap theatrics mean nothing to you.
Tough crowd.
So, not all of us went to film school, all right, and are writers. They're going to steal the syrup from the processing centers in Vermont and New Brunswick. He figures they can probably steal the contents to almost another 5,000 barrels, which should earn him about $9 million in sticky, but still cold hard cash. All right. That one better? No. All right. They will be responsible for the heist, but he will provide 3 trucks driven by some Quebecers he has in his employ, and all the syrup will be processed in a warehouse he owns through a shell company in the Bahamas in Augusta, Maine. The stick warns them that they won't have to just worry about Poisson's crew. The FPAC is actually like a cartel, and they have their enforcers out searching for the sudden influx of small batch syrup in the secondary markets. Apparently, they have people who monitor the secondary syrup markets. They know something's going on, but they don't realize where it's coming from. They don't realize it's coming from right under their noses yet. So the time to strike is now. So the stick gives Nathan and Duke 1 week to steal as much as they can, and it better be at least 4,500 barrels, even if it means they have to hit Poisson's trucks on the open road. He gives them one last incentive to ensure they complete the heist. He has people in Haven, from the dark underbelly of Haven, of course, which we discussed in previous episodes.
Lobster trappers, people gambling on the jets.
Yeah, you gamble on the Jets, you deserve whatever you're. I mean, they won again. That's 2 weeks in a row. Why, it's unbelievable. So he tells them that he knows his people in Haven have told him that they know they're close to Audrey Parker. So if they don't complete the mission, he has Audrey Parker and he will kill her.
No.
Yeah, that's another twist to it. He has kidnapped Audrey and she'll be killed if they don't complete the twist, because it's, you're inspired by hard crime fiction. So Nathan, and that's, that's the background on all of it. So Nathan and Duke leave the meeting and they're discussing their predicament in the Bronco as they drive back to Haven. It's too late to make it all the way back. So they stop at the only hotel in the area. Unfortunately, there's only one room left, so they'll have to share it. And I stole this idea directly from Charles Ardai's commentary for the episode. I just think it would be very funny, super hilarious for those two to spend a night in the same hotel room, and the bickering and arguing, teasing.
Are they in the same bed, or is it two beds? Come on, they got to share the bed.
They got to share the bed. I mean, and if you've never, as an adult, had to share a male adult share a bed with another male adult,
it could be lots of fun. What they would, Nathan would be like, they would do some coin flip. Nathan would get it, and then Duke would be like, "Yeah, but I got back problems, so I can't sleep on the couch or the floor, so I got to be in the bed too." And would lie up, And Duke would be in his underwear. Nathan would have like pajamas, a shirt on, and Duke would get in just underwear, maybe nothing, and be like, "All right, cool," and like get too close, and Nathan would be like,
"Oh, yeah, Duke would be all kinds of hijinks and hilarity would ensue within that."
Yeah,
but they know that they got to come up with a plan, because their lives and Audrey's life depends upon it. I haven't really gone far enough with what the actual plan is, but I know it basically has to end with them stealing the syrup, rescuing Audrey, and somehow arresting all the criminals. Yeah, I mean, I would use like the Haven writing team to kind of fill the rest of that out.
Hey, figure this out. Yeah, my only rec was or continue. I'll say my only.
Okay. So I would also make sure that somehow a shitload of syrup is unaccounted for, and the last scene is Duke taking the Cape Rouge out to sea with a big smile on his face and maybe like a syrup barrel in sight. Now, and before I turn this over for your commentary, my inspiration for this was the very real Great Canadian Maple Syrup heist that happened during 2011 into 2012. A guy named Richard Vallières, I'm sorry, I'm not good with the French, and his crew were able to steal the contents of 9,571 barrels of syrup worth $18.7 million. And so like this stuff really happened. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison and a $9.4 million fine. But if he doesn't pay his fine, the prison term goes all the way up to 14 years. So this is based on real life events that I remembered when they happened. I just found fascinating and always wanted to do a story based upon it.
My only change I'd make is that, at the end, it should be, he's got the syrup stored under the Grey Gull at the end, So he brings his pancakes out that morning, and has like a spigot on the giant tank of syrup and puts it on his plate and then eats it watching the sunrise.
With a smile. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
maybe he pours in a cup and is just taking big drinks of pure syrup.
You never know. I mean,
well, we do know that Eric Balfour doesn't like coffee or chocolate, so he doesn't really like sweet stuff. Well, that doesn't account for Duke.
I think Duke would appreciate pancakes, and we know Nathan would be like, "Hey, how come it's pancakes every fucking morning, or waffles?" And B, waffles are blasphemy. It's only pancakes, damn it.
Nah, I'm not going to agree. I'm not going to jump in on that take. But I think Nathan would pretty quickly figure out, like, hey, this syrup tastes too pure. They're doing the thing. It's like, cocaine in the drug movies. He dips his finger in the syrup, tastes of it, and is like, wow, this is 100% Canadian.
100% Canadian gold syrup.
Yep, exactly.
And then he starts, like, scratching his neck and wanting more syrup.
They got to get in a car chase on the highway.
Explosions.
Dump some, like, they spill out some syrup on purpose, so the car starts slipping around behind them, crashing into each other.
Yeah, so I mean, there's all these opportunities for like hijinks and action plots with
Duke fills water balloons with syrup and throws them at people.
Or urine.
Syrup hose. Yeah. Well, I don't think urine really has anything to do with this.
No.
I would watch this. This sounds like a good action movie, but it's like a buddy cop heist con type thing all at once. The Italian Job of syrup stuff.
Yeah, kind of. And I did some research. I read lists of the best capers versus the best heist films and all of that. And I thought this could be kind of a blend of all of it. And
yeah. Well, I think if everyone wants to send us in what you would want to see with the Duke and Nathan kind of caper buddy cop heist type situation type story, or tell us, which one my dad's is obviously a lot more detailed than mine. Mine's, I don't know how comedic yours actually would have been versus how mine was like pure comedy.
Well, if the Stick, the crime boss, the Stick, is played by Walken, and
oh my God.
How fun could that be? I mean, it would be. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not casting it, but that would make it really. I think you could make it a lot of comedy out of this, and you get some, like I said, explosions and syrup gags left and right.
I think that is it for episode 12. We will return to the town beneath the town in 1 week. The quickest way to reach us is by email. You can contact us at troubledrewatchpod@gmail.com. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, like Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher. I think we just got added to Pandora recently. So we'll also have the podcast up on YouTube. They're slowly being added to Vimeo, but it takes a while. And it really helps us when you hit like or subscribe. And if it's available on the platform, if you could leave a review, that'd be great. If you want the podcast straight from the source, you can visit us at troubledpodcast.com. We'll have all our episodes, news, and everything like that in one place for you. If you want to follow us on Twitter for updates, you can follow us at Havens Troubled. That's a capital H and a capital T. Try to be more active on that. We love making this show for you, but there are costs. We'd love to upgrade some of our gear and services. So we're asking for your help. We have a Patreon page linked in the show notes with a couple tiers. We got our $1 tier is a Haven tourist. That gets you just some like behind the scenes show documents that we write up. You get a Wu-Tang nickname. Autumn is getting their Wu-Tang nickname as Dominator Solstice.
Yes, sir.
So Dominator Solstice is Autumn's nickname. So this is our shout out to Autumn, because that's something else you get in your $1 Haven tourist Patreon level is you get a fan shout out. The $3, you get access to Troubled with Extra Syrup. Those are our side episodes. We've got a couple out. Our fourth one is about to drop in a couple of days. As we already mentioned kind of what the past three are about. This next one is about the first season of Castle Rock, the Hulu exclusive show. So we go in depth with the whole season of a show, not just an episode.
You don't want to miss that one. Trust me.
Yeah, you don't want to miss any of them.
Any of them. Listen to them twice. I do.
Our $5 tier is the director's cut episodes, is what you get from a Haven's Troubled tier. The $3 tier, by the way, was called a Haven Resident. This one's a Haven's Troubled. So you get upgraded for not just living in Haven, but having a curse. The curse is that you listen to this podcast. No, I'm just kidding. But you get access to the director's cut and a chance for a live Q&A type thing with us. We can also record and turn an episode if you want to, if you want to do something like that. But we can do a Zoom call with somebody if they want to. The director's cuts are going to be kind of rolling out starting in 2021.
And once again, on those Zoom calls, if you want, we can set them up and maybe somehow we can put tape over our camera so you don't have to see us. Yeah, you might prefer it that way. Now they're expecting Joseph Merrick, the Elephant Man. But all kidding aside, we appreciate your listenership. We appreciate your support. We hope everyone will come back next week to wrap up the season with us. And lastly, everyone be safe and never let your troubles get you down.